Welcome back to another special edition of Cape Band Today. As always, I am joined by Erika Brown, the publisher and editor of The Cricket, coming to us from our office in downtown Manchester by the Sea. But we are also joined by Bion Pike. He is the harbor master from Manchester by the Sea, too. Good morning to you both.
Good morning, Kory.
So Erika, this is different now, right? We have a third party in here with us. We have to be on our best behavior.
Yes, we have to be on our best behavior. And the reason why we have Bion in today is because, I was talking to Bion earlier this week when he submitted his the Waterline column, which is done monthly during the season. And I said, oh, Bion, I made the mistake of saying, Bion, things must be settling down for you now because it's the end of the summer, right? And he's like, maybe on the calendar, but in the harbor master's office, there's a ton of stuff going on. And there is a bunch of stuff going on. And I'm just going to rattle them off, and then maybe Bion, we're going to ask you a bunch of questions. The first one is, we've got the Fisherman's facility. We've got the harbor management plan. We've got the rotunda, we've got dredging, not in that particular order. I'm going to ask you first, though, about the Fisherman's facility, which for that, we're talking Morse Pier and Reed Park in downtown Manchester. So go ahead. What's the update there?
Happy to share. Well, the Fisherman's facility is like every other project that Manchester's had in the last dozen years, something that residents and resident boaters brought forth to ask, why can't we do this? Why aren't we doing this? Maybe we should do that. And the idea being that if we were to put in slips for the fishing fleet, mostly lobstermen, obviously, then we could keep the fleet around a little bit longer. The benefit of having a fishing fleet is grant funding. Many of the millions of dollars we've received in grant funding for harbor infrastructure, those grant applications were in part approved because we have a fishing fleet here and have had one for centuries. They're part of the fabric of actually that very part of the harbor where they are right now, Masconomo Park, Morse Pier, and that's just the place where they should always be. So trying to keep the character of the town, hang on to fishermen who might retire sooner than they would if they didn't have a shoreside facility. We started the process about 2 years ago of permitting and designing this facility. And now we have a final design. We'll be able to accommodate 6 or 7 lobster boats in there at the head of the harbor. And after all, this is a New England waterfront community. And there's nothing people love to see more than the working boats coming in with their catch at the end of the day. And this will just afford people the opportunity to see the lobstermen in action, and the lobstermen to continue to be in action.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember talking to Kory several months ago, and you may not have seen it or learned about it, but we came up with something that you were involved with a couple of years ago when you were going before the finance committee, which you do every year to defend your budget and to submit your budget and be interviewed. And I remember there was, and I don't want to call anybody out on the finance committee because that's not what we do, but I remember one of the finance committee people gave a little chippy and came in a little hot on landing fees for lobstermen. And 2 things. Number one, I learned from you that Manchester is right in the middle of the pack of all of Massachusetts harbors for its number of lobstermen. So it's not down at the bottom. It's actually right in the healthy middle. And number 2, I remember the moment that, and this person I will call out, when Mark Weld from the finance committee, who is no longer on the finance committee, he basically interceded and said, hold on, landing fees, guess what? We get so much money and we benefit so much from state grants because of economic development regarding the fact that we are a commercial fishing harbor. And then the second thing he said is, and by the way, that idea of a working waterfront is part of the aesthetic and the ethos of our town. And it's really, really important. And if we didn't have it, we'd miss it. Anyway, enough said.
It'd be a real loss.
Yeah, it would. So it's very interesting.
Yeah. Bion, do you want to comment on the latest with the rotunda?
Oh, gosh, well, so first of all, I should be perfectly clear that that's not a harbor department project. That's, we don't manage that facility. But it is on the waterfront, and I do want to be helpful where possible. So the engineers told us 5 years ago that the facility had 5 years left before the pilings underneath failed. And we are, next year, next spring will be the 5th year. And efforts were made to try to deal with this. First thing we had to do was get the floating docks squared away and licensed, which they never had been. It was non-compliant, couldn't repair them. So we went through that. That was the phase 1. Phase 2 is to raise the facility up. Initial projections were we need to raise this facility 5 to 7 feet, which is